guys, HCGChica. This video is, or podcast, I don't know if you might be listening, but this is all about making healthy habits last long term. This is about after HCG. So today I'm going to talk about 5 ways to handle temptations in everyday life after HCG. Because obviously on the diet, that's very difficult. But after the diet as well, you're going to continue to face temptations because while other people are still, stuffing their face with nachos and gallons of ice cream, hopefully you're actually making a transition away from that in order to maintain your weight loss. And so I'm going to share basically the 5 ways that I have used to help myself to deal with temptations. Another name for this discussion might be my tools for watching other people eat soft serve without cracking. And basically, in a nutshell, I don't watch, I do something else. So these are the 5 main keys that I use. Looks like I'm showing 10 fingers at 5. These are the 5 main keys that I use to make good choices for myself on a daily basis when I'm in, group settings or with my family. So the first one is order another food item I like that fits within my current way of eating. And my idea here is, when others are ordering dessert, I will order some other food item that goes along with what I feel comfortable eating. 2, become a paparazzi. We'll talk about that. 3, plan to make my own P3 or P4 healthier version dessert when I arrive home. 4, time. And 5, I do indulge sometimes, but I choose carefully. So we're going to talk first about ordering another food item that fits in with my current way of eating. So if I'm out to eat with my husband and son and they order, berry cobbler a la mode, which happened just a few days ago, I will often order something else that I'm in the mood for and eat that while they're eating their dessert. So I don't just sit there not eating anything and watching them eat their dessert. That doesn't sound fun. So I will either order like another salad, or I'll even order a side of bacon, or it doesn't matter. Maybe even another hamburger patty with no bun. And I'm not embarrassed to do that. You might feel a little embarrassed if that's something you haven't done before, but you'll get over it really quick if you start doing that at restaurants. So that's what I did the other day. They ordered their berry cobbler and I ordered a side of bacon, and I ate, it was like 3 or 4 pieces, but it was very satisfying, and that fit into my current way of eating. So I mentally and emotionally, I felt comfortable with that choice. I felt like it was in keeping with my healthy lifestyle, and I felt great after, and I didn't feel deprived. I didn't feel tempted or like I missed out. 2, become a paparazzi. And this actually can extend into basically picking up some sort of hobby that you can do in a social setting. Photography is one that obviously would work well. I've kind of gotten more into photography as my son's been growing up, and I take a lot of pictures of him. So, when I go to a social gathering now, I am often spending a lot of time taking pictures of everybody and of my son while everyone else is eating chips and dip. This keeps both my hands busy. I find it very satisfying. So, one of the things about eating food is that it feels satisfying. So one way to not feel sad that you're not eating certain foods is to do something else that also feels satisfying. And that's how I feel about taking pictures. Now, maybe for you that's not the case. Maybe you could be knitting or crochet, I don't know. But honestly, most people like to take pictures. I mean, most people have an iPhone or an iPad now. And I think that that's a fun way you're able to kind of catalog the event, which people will appreciate. And that's just one way that I basically keep my mind busy, and I stay just involved enough with something that I don't even really have time to think about whether or not I am or am not eating, certain foods that might be at a gathering that I normally wouldn't want to be eating. The third little trick is that I plan in my mind to make a P3 or a P4 dessert for myself when I get home. So later that same day, the same day as the berry cobbler, on the way home from a family day, they then went to soft serve, and they both got a soft serve cone. And so at that point, I wasn't ordering a side of bacon. Obviously, there's no bacon at a soft serve ice cream shop. But at that point, I was actually taking pictures of my son. So that was one thing. But I also was thinking in my head, like, oh, as soon as I get home, which will be in a couple hours, I'm gonna make my own P3 smoothie. And for me, this takes away that feeling of being deprived, because instead it's more like I'm making a choice to have something that I really love the taste of. You know, I've come to love my little P3, P4 smoothies. Something I love the taste of that also has no negative repercussions on my body. And there's nothing I'm gonna have to fix, nothing I'm gonna have to feel bad about. It's not gonna cause me any weird cravings. It fits within my current healthy way of living. And so that's what I'll do. And that is what I did. You know, I went home and I made, I'm in P4, so I use a lot of frozen mango lately with just some ice and water and stevia, and I blender that in my Vitamix, and it's so good, it's filling, it's delicious, and I'm perfectly happy with that. So that's the other thing that I'll do. For you guys, you know, there's all kinds of choices now for alternative baked goods if you're into, you know, baked stuff. We know that there's like the almond flours, the flaxseed meal, the coconut flour, and so all that type of stuff I'm gonna actually link in the blog post that goes with this discussion. My Pinterest board, I have two. I have a phase 3 Pinterest board with recipes that I've made sure fit the proper description, you know, it doesn't have sugar. And then I also have a board that's sugar-free, grain-free recipes that I have found all throughout the internet. And so you can check those out as well. In addition, you'll also find links to just my own little recipes that I made. They're all fairly simple, but they're either P3 or P4 healthy things that you can eat in everyday life while still maintaining your weight loss. And so you can check those out too. The fourth trick is actually just time. And of course, you know, that's something that it's gonna take time. It takes time for time to pass, right? So, but the thing is with time, basically the longer that you go eating in a healthy way, and the farther away you get from the previous way that you used to eat, the easier it gets to just continue with your new habit, with your habits, you know, with the new ones you've developed. Your brain no longer goes to that place where like, oh, well, maybe I could just have one cupcake or whatever. And maybe for you, you can have one cupcake. We'll talk about that in a minute. The fifth trick was that I do indulge sometimes, but I choose carefully. So we'll talk about that because for each person that'll be different. But the time factor, the longer you go having made these changes in your life, I promise you it really does get easier. I never, you know what, to be honest, when I first started this diet, I actually never intended on changing my dietary habits long term because I was so addicted to sugar at that time. I mean, I literally would have to leave the house to go buy a piece of chocolate cake, like, or something like that on a daily basis. Like, I would have no other reason to leave the house. It's not like I needed groceries or anything else. I would go all the way to the store just to get my sugar fix. So at that time, I craved those foods so badly that I really didn't see how it could be humanly possible to actually change my eating long term. But what you find is once you go through a little bit of carb withdrawal and detox when you're on HCG, your body kind of cleans itself out and those cravings go away. And you know, if you're having trouble with cravings and you're on HCG, I actually have some really good posts talking about why that might be and how you can fix it. One of them is why I chose to remove the fruits and Melba from the HCG diet. So I will link to that in the article that goes with this discussion, so you can check that out if you're having trouble with that. That's one biggie for people who are addicted to sugar like I was. But anyway, you find that what you want changes and you get used to eating cleaner and it becomes easier. And so by the time I was done with my first round, it was actually very easy not to eat sugar anymore. And I was surprised by that. And I've been able to kind of continue along with that. Basically what happens is when your healthy habits become so long-standing, that it becomes second nature, it almost actually becomes hard to go against that. You'll find, like, you know, there's times, of course, when I will be like, I wonder, you know, but it's actually hard to totally consider giving in and eating something that I haven't eaten in, say, 2 years, because I have such a long track record of eating in this certain healthy way. It's actually hard to break that track record. And so it's actually easier to just kind of keep doing what I know is best for my body. The other thing is, on those occasional times when I do find myself kind of maybe thinking a little bit like, maybe I could indulge a little bit, in this particular food. The voice that's saying that in my head is very faint. So it's so faint that it's easily overcome by pushing the thought out of my mind, being like, oh no, that's just not what I do. And it's usually at that point that I'll then think to myself, oh, when I get home, I'm going to make my P3 smoothie. And that, instantly satisfies that whatever desire I had in myself in a healthy way. So the fifth tip is that sometimes I actually do indulge, but I choose what I indulge in carefully. And what I mean by that is that, yes, sometimes I will eat foods that I wouldn't normally eat on a day-to-day basis. But the way I choose what foods those will be has to do with what effect they will have on me mentally and emotionally. So let me explain what I mean by that. I, like I said, used to be addicted to sugar. It's still a trigger for me in many cases. So there are a lot of foods that I will probably just never eat again. Those things include cookies, cake, cupcakes, stuff like that. Because those are things that are sugar-based foods that are a trigger for me. And if I have a little bit of that, it makes me start thinking about those foods again and making me crave them. It creates a negative emotional and mental feeling inside me that isn't good for me. So those are things that I just will always stay away from. Now, for someone else who's not addicted to sugar, which some of you guys aren't, because some of my interviews with HCGers that I've interviewed, they've had a very different experience than me on the protocol. Cheating, it's easy for them to not cheat. They don't feel drawn to sugary foods. And, so for them it may be different. Some of you guys, as you move into P4, you may be able to have one cupcake without wanting to eat 10 more, but that's, for me, if I eat one, I want 10 more. It doesn't matter how long it's been since the last time I ate sugar, I'm still gonna want 10 more as soon as I eat one. So that's something I stay away from. However, there are other foods, like say if I go to a Thai restaurant, there are small amounts of sugar in like the curries and the salads and stuff like that, but I have found that I'm okay with eating Thai food, even though there's a little sugar in it. I eat a heaping amount of rice with my curry to kind of mediate the heatness, because I'm really sensitive to hot stuff. So I'll eat rice, I can have chips, I can have French fries. So those types of foods I can have, and it doesn't trigger any type of negative or emotional thing in me. It doesn't make me crave more of that in an unhealthy way. So those are the types of things that I do indulge in on occasion. In fact, I probably go out once a week to my favorite little burger place, and I have a burger with no bun, and I have a side of fries with ketchup, and I have that once a week, and I love it. And I do a little work while I'm sitting there, and I have Thai food probably once a month, and I love it. So that's what's okay for me to indulge in. Or, if I go to a gathering and there's ribs with barbecue sauce, there's probably a little sugar in the barbecue sauce, but it doesn't end up being a trigger for me. So I'll have the ribs, So that's what I've found I can get away with having without it producing other negative effects for me. Now, one other thing that I use, it kind of goes along with the indulging factor, is that, obviously sometimes when you indulge, it ends up being a higher calorie meal, right? So it's like if you go to a party, you'll probably end up eating a lot more calories at that event than you would if you had just had a regular dinner at home. So the other thing that I often utilize is intermittent fasting. So if I know I'm going somewhere that night with yummy food that I want to enjoy, I might actually fast that day. So I'll just fast up until dinner time. So if it's 6 or 7 o'clock, and then I'll eat, and then that basically creates a calorie balance for the day. So that everything stays even. And, I've talked about this a lot now, so you may have already heard me talk about it before. If you're, unsure of fasting and intermittent fasting, because I was led to believe that it was unhealthy originally, but since then I've done a lot of research and I've discovered that actually it can be very good for you. And so if you use it in moderation, it can be a very useful tool just on creating a calorie balance for when you want to have a higher calorie meal at times. So sometimes I do that once a week, sometimes it's only once a month, but it's a very useful tool. So anyway, I hope you guys found those 5 tips helpful. Again, the 5 tips were: order another food item that you like that fits in with your current way of eating. Become a paparazzi. So basically just find something to busy yourself. Get your mind busy so that it's not thinking about food. The third one, plan your own P3 or P4 healthier dessert to make when you get home from wherever you are. Time, the longer you stick with this, the easier it's gonna get. And the last one is indulge sometimes, but be aware of what foods kind of trigger something negative in you and which foods you can eat that you're okay with, that you don't feel something, like that it makes you crave or something like that. All right, I hope you guys found that helpful, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and whatever social media. I'm not on all of them, but if you want to find me on one of them or see if I'm on there, just search HCGChica. I'm pretty much the only HCGChica around. So, all right, you guys, take care. Bye.